Welcome to the Gracious Woman podcast. Marriage is a lifetime commitment to God and not to the person. Here, we encourage each other to be married to God's vision of the women that we were meant to be. I'm Minister Patience, your host and guide towards this journey of being the gracious woman. So today, we're going to talk about who are you? Who am I? Who am I? Who are you? Do not describe yourself with what you do. Don't say, I am Patience the accountant, or Patience the mom, or Patience the wife. No, like, who are you? What is your core? What is your core belief system? What are your values? What do you value? I describe myself as being kind, empathetic. So I am kind. I am empathetic. I am gracious. Hence the name of this podcast, The Gracious Woman. I think a lot of times when we become mothers and wives, we forget who we are at the very core of our being. I was very young when I got married. I don't know what your situation is like. Have you lost yourself? For example, I got married when I was very young. I was 19, 20. So I identified myself as being a wife, as being a mother. And so along the way, when the marriage started getting very complicated, it was very hard for me to know right from wrong. And when I say to know right from wrong, I mean I was lost in what society told me I should be doing. Now, society says a lot of things. Early on, I wasn't very strong in my core belief system as a Christian. I just did things based on what I thought was right or what my friends were doing. So later on, when my marriage started crumbling, it was very hard for me to stick to the right principles in the marriage because I didn't personally understand who I was. So again, who are you? Who are you in your marriage? Who are you as a wife? Who are you as a mother? Who are you as a woman? Now, you can define yourself with the activities that you do, but I want you to step away from that. And the reason why it's so important is if your marriage is currently going through struggles, which most of our marriages are, it's very important for you to know what you believe in. If you're a Christian, which I hope you to be, I am a Christian, so my principles are based on my belief and faith in God, in Jesus, in the Bible. So for me, to be gracious in my relationship, to be gracious in my situation is not in response to how my partner is treating me. It is really in response to what God says I should be. Now, as a woman, we need to know our place in our relationships. And sometimes we may think that we have to put ourselves lower or beneath or last. Not necessarily. There were strong women in the Bible that did great things. There is Ruth, for example. There's Naomi, for example. There's Hannah, for example. Hannah was a second wife, or third wife, fourth wife, whatever. But we know she was a wife amongst many. Hannah didn't have any children, and she really desired children. We hear that her co-wife, Peninnah, they used to mock her. But Hannah knew who she was. Hannah was a woman of faith. She had serious faith in her God. That is what I mean when I ask you, who are you? Do the situations around you define who you are? What is your core belief system? So, like Hannah, I have a strong faith in God. Whenever I have challenges in my relationship, I bring them up to God. So Hannah had a challenge. She wanted to be a woman amongst the other women. She wanted a child. So Hannah went to prayer. She didn't think about dissolving her marriage. She didn't think about picking a different husband. That is not what she did. Instead, Hannah went to the temple and she prayed. She prayed to the point where people thought she was crazy because she was talking to herself, she was crying, but Hannah was very determined. She prayed and she asked God for a child. And in that process, she went into covenant with God. This is how Hannah captured a move of God in her life. How can you capture a move of God in your marriage? What's your situation right now? What's your challenge right now? Like Hannah, I would like to propose that you take it to your prayer closet. I would like to propose that you pray about it and you get into covenant with God. Because in this podcast, what we do is encourage each other to be the women that God wants us to be. We are to encourage each other not to be swayed by the situation and the things that people are saying. No, we are to encourage each other to take our situation to God, because nothing is impossible with God. So what happened with Hannah? Hannah said to God, if you give me a child, a son, I will give him back to you. She got into covenant with God. And what did God do? God responded. And not only that, God gave Hannah a son, not just one, five. And Hannah stuck to her word. When her child was born, she nursed her child and she took her son to Eli. And that is the prophet Samuel we know today, the powerful and amazing man of God that God used. So who are you? Who are you? Who are you? I'm going to leave you with that. So a gracious woman is known for her kindness and empathy. How can we relate this to your marriage, to your relationship? You know, when we're angry, sometimes we can be very snappy with our words. We say the worst things and we justify, well, I'm angry. You know, we're having a fight, whatever, right? But to be a gracious woman is to be kind at all instances, even when we're angry. So we want to watch what we bring to the table when we are in disagreement. We still want to argue in kindness. We still want to be empathetic to whatever our partner is going through. How good are you with your listening? Are you someone that always wants to be heard? You know, a lot of us are like princesses, we're spoiled, kind of. In my culture, I'm African, we say a home, a house, a marriage is the woman. When the woman doesn't have things together, the relationship, the home doesn't really stand solid. So the onus on the onus of our marriages lies in our hands, us women. We're the ones that were created in the image of Adam to be helpers. If Adam could do it on his own, if man can do it on his own, God would have never found the need to create a woman. So you need to know that your husband needs you. He needs you to help him. He needs you to assist him to achieve whatever it is he is trying to achieve. A lot of our relationships, the man is chasing one thing and then the woman is chasing another thing. Nothing wrong with that. We have different careers. We're all bringing money to the table, but there has to be a consensus in the relationship. There has to be something that we're both working towards. Now, yes, the man sets the tone. Yes, the man is the head of the house, but he does need assistance. He needs help. He doesn't need you to take over, but he needs help getting to where he needs to get to. A lot of times when relationships start falling apart, one of the issue is because people are moving in different paths, and these pathways are going in different directions. They are not even meeting ahead. So yes, as a woman, we're the caregivers in the home. We cook, we clean, we provide, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be lost in that. It's okay to get help. I'm not trying to turn you into a 1700s, century woman, but it is your responsibility to make sure the house is clean. It is your responsibility to make sure there's food, a cooked meal on the table. If you need extra hands to help you to get that accomplished, it's okay. But know that it's on you. Now, I know 2024, some of us say, well, you're the first person to get in the house. You go ahead and fix dinner. Nothing wrong with that. But we are to be married to God's vision of the women we are supposed to be. Now, God's way is we have our roles. We're motherly. God created us in a certain way. We are more emotional. We are more caring. We are more of the caregivers. When we go back to Genesis and we look clearly at the curse that God put on men and God put on women, to the man, he said, you're going to go and till the ground. You're going to labor. You're going to work hard to provide. And then that was his curse. He's going to suffer while he's trying to provide for the family, for the unit. And then for the woman, our curse was, well, we're going to try and rule these men, but we're not going to be able to, is what God said. God said that we're going to desire our husbands and we're going to desire to rule over them, but that is not what God's vision is for us. That is a curse. So whenever you see yourself struggling, trying to butt heads with your husband, you are actually moving along and with the curse. It's not supposed to be so. Another thing, we are supposed to experience pain during childbirth. That's a curse. So if you look at the nature of the curses, it gives us insight into our responsibilities. So how do we become gracious women in this situation? We have to know our role in the marriage. We have to know our role in the relationship. And we have to take care of those things. This is how we remain feminine. And this is also how we really sit in our feminine energy. And we don't try to take over what the husband is supposed to do. This is where we don't compete with the husband. Because when we have too much masculine energy, we're trying to provide, we're trying to, go to work and do this. I'm not saying it's bad. It is good, but there's a place and a time for everything. So another way of being a gracious woman is being grateful all the time, particularly when things are bad, particularly when things are not going well. Instead of focusing on the negative thing, what's the positive thing in this situation? Because a lot of times we become pessimistic. We stop being optimistic about life. Is the glass half empty or is it half full? At the end of the day, it's still in the same position, but the difference is, if you're saying the glass is half empty, Well, it means that whatever you're going through, you don't have enough of it. But if the glass, you're looking at the situation as though the glass is half full, then it means you're actually a step closer to achieving whatever it is that you want. So you see the difference in perspective? Everything is at the same level though, but it's the way you're looking at it. So say for example, you and your husband have been working towards buying a house, buying a home, for example, and you are trying to raise a down payment, for example, and it's not enough. Maybe something's, short or whatever the case is. Now you could look at this situation as, oh my God, I'm never gonna get my dream house. Like it's not happening. Or you could look at it as, oh, God has been gracious. God has been faithful. We have managed to get this amount of money saved up. You see the difference in approaches? One approach is ungrateful. Things are just happening too slowly for you. But one approach, very grateful. Even if it takes 5 years, even if it takes 10 years, that gratitude sustains you. And sometimes it's all about the journey. It's not about arriving. It's not about the destination. It's about smelling the roses along the way. So, to be gracious is to look at your very bad situation in a very positive and thankful way. Lord, thank you, I'm up today. Thank you, I can even breathe. Thank you, I went to work. Thank you for the children that you gave me. Find joy in the things that are working. Do not focus on the negative things, because the negative things are there for either a challenge. The negative things are either there to build you, to mold you, to build some type of muscle in you. So to be gracious is to find the good in every situation that is going on and focus on that and keep working towards it. It's a journey. Marriage is a journey of a lifetime. If you think on the perspective of this is my marriage, I'm not going anywhere, things will work out. But if you give yourself options like, well, am I the first person to get divorced? My friend got divorced, then it's going to be very hard for you to find the good in your very tough situation. So I never said it's going to be easy to be a gracious woman, but here we are going to be encouraging each other to be committed and married to the vision of the women that God wants us to be and not what society says. Meet me here next week where we teach and help each other to be gracious women. I'm Minister Patience, and I'm your host for the Gracious Woman Podcast. I will see you next time.